For those of you who don't know, I'm Victor Valeski, Superintendent of East Brunswick Public Schools. Thank you for coming out tonight. I would normally say good evening, but there's absolutely nothing good about having to deliver this message. But I do hope you leave with factual information about the challenges we've been dealing with in this budget, the rationale for some of the decisions, and what we need to do to prepare for next year. So I had up, as you came in, if you were in here earlier, the platform for this evening's event. This forum will conclude at 8:30. I understand there are a variety of opinions, emotions, and I ask that we keep all of our exchanges civil. As with a typical board meeting, we're going to contain statements to 3 minutes, just in the interest of time and making sure everyone has an opportunity who wants to speak. There will be an attempt to answer as many questions as possible. We cannot discuss confidential personnel or legal issues, so please do not ask about them. I'm hoping not, but if for any reason this meeting becomes disruptive, I will conclude it. And I wanted to mention that anybody using the child care tonight, the free child care, that will conclude at 8:45 tonight. So I know this is not why you came tonight, but bear with me for 1 minute. 2 days ago, or actually yesterday, we were awarded again Best High Schools by U.S. News & World Report for 2024. The reason I say that is there's been a lot of discussion in the public forum by a variety of individuals who claim that East Brunswick Public Schools has slid backwards or riding on the coattails of blue ribbon status. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. And we have the documentation to prove it. We have the graduates to prove it. We have the staff to prove it. On our website, and this is information from 2023 to 2022, 2023. This is a complete year, and we're accumulating this for this year as well. But you can see, and I'm not going to go through all this, just the litany of excellence in academics. The excellence in athletics. And of course, excellence in the arts. As I said, all of this will be available on the website. This entire presentation will be on the website, and you're welcome to take a look at it. I encourage you to take a look at it because it's about who we are. And I want you to remember that as we go through this presentation. I want you to remember who we are. So let's talk about what we're here for tonight. The budgetary impacts for the 2024-2025 budget. As you've probably already heard reported in the media, East Brunswick Public Schools had a reduction in state aid this year of over $1.3 million. We also had an increase in the tuition that is set aside for charter schools, the major of those being the Hatikva International Academy Charter School. The impact, and I want to pause here for a minute about the reduction in the state aid. This is the first year the state has fully implemented their public school funding formula. It was actually enacted in 2008, but never fully implemented. The major impacts to this formula that are affecting East Brunswick Public Schools are two things. The increase in the assessed property valuation in East Brunswick and the increase in household wealth in East Brunswick. As a result of those factors, the state is saying to the community of East Brunswick that you should be paying a larger share of the cost of operating East Brunswick Public Schools. And yet, the state says you have to maintain a 2% cap. So it doesn't take very long to imagine the floor keeps collapsing and the ceiling doesn't rise. You keep getting compressed. Then factor in inflationary impacts on everything we do. You can see quickly how this becomes a problem. Our out-of-district special education tuition for this year is factored to increase, or will increase, almost $1.2 million. That is because the out-of-district placements where we place our most at-risk, at-need students with programs that we can't provide in East Brunswick Public Schools, they, by law, can raise their rates uncontrollably and at will. And they simply send us the bill and say, it's yours to pay. And this is after the students are already placed there. We, of course, and we factor in that we already know we have contractual increases among all of our groups, our bargaining groups. We have a projected health benefits increase for 2025 of almost $3.3 million. $1.3 million of unbudgeted special education positions. So after we closed last year's budget, these are positions that serve our special education population that are mandated by federal law. We don't have a choice. Therapeutic counseling services, this is for mental health support for our students, especially important on the backside of the pandemic. We have consumer price index increases for contracted transportation. We run a hybrid bus fleet. We have our own drivers, our own buses, but we do have about 40% of our bus fleet is contracted through private providers. And that CPI allows them to raise the rates for their routes and for their services. And then finally, we have an increase to our custodial vendor contract that was renegotiated, expired, and was renewed this year. So we have $2.8 million worth of expenditures that need to be covered. And before we even started, we were able to manage an additional $5 million in revenue to offset that. That leaves us still almost $2.9 million in a deficit position. So I want you to know this, and I want you to think back about what I just said about who we are. Every decision made focused on having the least direct impact on students. We started this process hoping we could get through it without affecting a single individual. We wanted to make sure that our students, your children, did not experience what we're going through right now. They wouldn't see the end result. We are committed to that. The impact to students in East Brunswick is extremely minimal in this budget. There are some impacts, but they have been minimized to a great degree. So as I said, we started with the intention, the focus of making sure we could save personnel. Where could we take things from the budget? Where were the big cost drivers that we could start recouping, deferring? And so this list represents that. Of this list, one of the major drivers is substitute services. And we looked at professional development, and we deferred textbook materials as we appropriately could. And they said we have some deferrals in here for just a year. This is the part that hurts. These are real people with real jobs and real families that we have relationships with. And I'm going to say them out loud. Assistant Superintendent for Student Service or Student Activities and Services. Assistant Director of Human Resources. Supervisor of alternate programs. 5 secretaries, 1 confidential secretary. 5 part-time secretaries. 9 secretaries moving from 12-month to 10-month. Student assistant specialist. A school counselor. 6 counselors moving from 12-month to 10-month status. 10 instructional coaches. 15 teachers, 9 at the secondary level, 6 at the elementary level. 1 system support specialist, 1 IT specialist, 1 assistant video manager, 1 HVACR 4-person, 1 general maintenance technician, 1 painter, and 4 custodians. Again, all real people, people that we know and work with all the time, directly impacted. So what's the human impact? 51 positions in total have been eliminated. That number represents 25 reductions in force, shrinking the organization. It involves 5 individuals who are considered non-contract renewal. Typically, we have people who just don't perform at the East Brunswick level. This happens every year. We had 8 unfilled positions and 13 individuals who announced they were going to retire. Now, I'm going to pause for a minute because one of the things that we have been working on and trying to do is we are going to restore 4th grade chorus and band for 1 year. I want to repeat that, it's just for 1 year. Because for everyone who is advocating for the 4th grade orchestra and band, that advocacy needs to be turned to how can we generate this resource from the state. Not for every student that's in 4th grade band specifically, but everybody in that list before it. We all have to advocate, and I'm asking for your help to do that. Of course, that decision wouldn't be possible without the people seated in the front rows down here of the Board of Education who don't get a lot of credit for all the hard work that goes into this. They have worked tirelessly. They have never stopped in believing we could come to solutions. Never once did they quit. Another factor that many people overlook in East Brunswick is the actual cost of the charter school. And Hitikva is what I'm referencing right now. In 2011, we paid Hitikva a little over $1.2 million in tuition. And yet this year, we're paying Hitikva over $5.7 million for this year alone. The cumulative total since Hatikva's inception is over $44 million of East Brunswick money that goes to tuition for a charter school. And believe me, we have a professional relationship with them. I know Marcia Grayson, we work together on security and making sure their students are safe. But the reality is, Hatikva International Academy Charter School, by the state's own mandate, should have never been approved. It did not meet any of the criteria at that time for establishment of a charter school. And yet, because of political forces, it was approved. So we coexist, but the impact is real. And they do return to us in 9th grade, and they have been approved for an expansion of their seats at their grade levels. And charter schools statewide have been given great latitude to estimate their enrollments for this next year. So districts are forced to set aside resources to cover that. That's why we saw a jump this year. So moving forward, so based on this current philosophy and this current practice by the state to actually fully implement the public school funding formula, and based on what we already know about the wealth of East Brunswick, we anticipate next year to be difficult as well. And we're going to have to get ready for it. We don't know how much of a decline in state aid funding we're going to get. We don't know, and we don't have access to the tax records of East Brunswick that the state uses. So this is almost like real time. Until they release the state aid numbers to us, we will not know what the impact is going to be as we look forward. So here's what we have to do. We will analyze each position as it becomes vacant, either through retirement or through resignation. And we just continue to look at all cost efficiencies across the board, every single opportunity, every day. What can we do differently? How can we do it differently? We're a big organization. We're the biggest employer in East Brunswick. And we need to expand our enterprise revenues. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's community programs, before school care, after school care, any camps. When we rent our facilities like the JM Pack on the weekends or the evenings, those are enterprise revenues that help offset the general operation of schools and what we call the general fund. We can't do this alone. I'm calling this a call to action by everybody in East Brunswick. I don't follow social media anymore because it's just so disturbing to watch. But if that much energy were put into a positive direction to support the schools, the opportunities would be endless. I can't stop the negativity. You can. The public hearing will be tomorrow night. The actual board meeting begins at 7:30. It will be in our typical meeting place. No vote will be taken tomorrow night. The final budget adoption, where a vote will be taken, will be May 9th. And now I'm just going to put this back up on the screen, what we talked about earlier, and we have a microphone down front, and we're going to entertain as many questions as we can. Mr. Sismar.
Hi, Mark Sismar, 100 Fresh Ponds Road. Couple questions. I was looking at the user-friendly budgets, and I looked at all the admin salaries. Those are the current admin salaries. I don't think it's a confidential matter. Are they all flat zero for next year?
No, no.
So when will we, as the public, get the information of how much admin gets raised?
I haven't made any recommendations for admin at this point.
But
So
is that
they-
in the budget? Like, where would that money come from? No matter the increment of the raise,
yeah,
where would that money come from?
It would come from the budget.
So is there a portion of the budget that I could look at that says we're saving X number of thousands of dollars for admin potential raises?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean when you say we're saving.
Well, yeah, it has to be a line item somewhere.
Yeah,
Where
it
would the
is.
money come from? Yeah, what's that amount? Where could I find that?
Well, Mr. Sismore, you were on the board, right? So let's be transparent. You were a board member for many years. You know exactly where to find it. But in the presentation, as I said, with all of the
Okay,
actual
that's fine.
impacts of the budget, the salary increases there were 3 point, I believe, I got to go back.
Okay, but it's very difficult as a resident to look through that. I'll move on to my next question. So,
Right there.
the last year, your contract expired in 2026. I think the original vote was 2027 and 22. This user-friendly budget says your contract ends this June. Why that discrepancy?
It may be one, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's something maybe we can get back later on, because that contract should be, originally, when it was voted on in 2022, it was extended till 27.
Correct. My current contract ends in 27.
Okay. Yeah, and last year said 26, this year says 24.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a mistake, but
we'll
it's
check.
just.
But yes,
it's
my
crazy with
current contract ends in 2027.
Okay, so there's no changes to that.
No changes to that.
Okay. Question two, and this is just speculative, whatever. I see the cuts. I'm going to speak tomorrow night for one or more of the individuals now that I know the cuts are. Did anybody from your office or the board consider on asking the residents to go above 2%? That is an option. I'm not saying it's the best option, but I'm just saying this hasn't even been approved yet. The decision's been made to cut 50-some jobs, I believe. I'm only going to speak of the position of Assistant Superintendent of Student Services right now. I won't even do it by name because I don't know if that person's getting removed and
Getting removed?
by name. The position you said is getting removed. Assistant Superintendent Special Services.
I'm only talking about positions.
Right. That's why I said I won't
Yeah,
speak
I'm
about
not-
names
I'm
tonight.
not talking
But
names.
that office does a lot.
10 seconds.
And I'm not saying, and you know what, I'll take my 10 seconds. Folks, read the budget. Trust me, read the budget. And I wish I could say what I know from the back room. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I'm really sorry, I'm really new about all this budgeting and everything, but I'm wondering why East Brunswick is one of the townships where we don't pay the bus when we most likely need money. Why did we decide to remove 50 people before we have to pay for the bus when the township I was before let us pay for the bus? So why the only solution, well, and I'm going to give name because I can. You hired my husband on January 5th. He started 3 months after. You fired him 3 weeks after. Good job. That's it. The bus, I was happy to pay. You are the most well-paid superintendent of New Jersey, and that's the only thing we have right now. So yeah, you don't want to read Facebook, but maybe you should. You can fake cry when you fired 50 people, but I really think that they had a way better option than that. I'm just like, you understand that this secretary, when you remove 30% of their salary, it's not $250,000 less than 30%. It's 60 to 40K, 40K. You are telling everybody tonight that you have no budget. How they live with 40K? So I left your concerns feel great about yourself and get your bonuses and everything, but I think what you are doing right now is really wrong. That's it.
Hello, Dr. Valeski.
Hi.
My name is Maggie Georges. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Congratulations on all the accomplishments that East Brunswick has achieved. Your presentation was extremely informative. I see that 25 positions are being eliminated. Can there be a freeze in salaries to save those positions? And moving forward, it's clear that there is a deficit in the budget, and there is a struggle. And you are facing a hard time. And unfortunately, all of education is facing a hard time. So you said that we need to reach out to the state. So can the board spearhead an initiative for a letter for the city, for everyone to send to the board, to the state to advocate funds for the city, for the town,
For the
East
school
Brunswick,
district?
for the school district. So this letter is very important. Can the board spearhead this initiative? What letter should be sent and to who? Because I think, for the most part, if I prepare a letter, I don't know who it's going to go to. And this needs to be resolved moving forward. You're in a very difficult situation. But we do need to, if there's any chance to save these positions, these are real people. I know it's very difficult. Money doesn't just appear. But if there's anyone that we can advocate and try to get that money, please, can you kind of let us know?
We have already discussed with Assemblyman Stanley about the current plight. We have submitted to the DOE through our county offices, asking for a review of our formula to see if there are any mistakes, if any additional money will be coming our way. But we're going to have to advocate this year for changes in the funding formula. The funding formula was developed in 2008 and doesn't account for the anomalies like we're encountering in East Brunswick, where you try to grow a really stellar school district, and you have community support to do that. But you know what, and I get it, you're all emotional, and I can understand why you think that I'm fake crying, because I'm not that good of an actor. These are real people, but there are real people in the audience that are family members of people that I'm looking at right now that have real impacts. This is not the position I want to be in tonight. It's not the meeting you wanted to come to tonight. I do not like giving this news. I do not like having to make these decisions. But the bottom line is the decisions have to be made because no one else is going to do it. The numbers are real, and we're trying every option we can. In spite of that, there are people in this room have massaged the information into a complete misrepresentation. You might as well call it Facebook Marketplace for misinformation. It's not helping. But we are working on it, and we're doing everything we can.
Thank you, and kindly let us know what we can do. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Valeski. My name is Dave Suker. I want to look at this budget numbers you put up here, and two lines, the contractual salary increases and the health benefit increases. $7 million combined. Both of those should not have been a surprise to the Budget Committee. Budget Committee did not start this a week ago. This is stuff that they knew was coming. They're all contractual. They know the increases are coming. What has been done the last 12 months to prepare for that $7 million increase that is now the primary shortfall of your overall budget?
We do know the contractual increases. We know what those are every year.
What have you done over the last 12 months to prepare for them happening this year?
We
Is my question.
we do every year. We try to economize on everything when we're building the budget, because those are part of the budget that comes in. We know we have to pay that, and we build the rest of the budget around that. But when we have increases in mandatory things that we cannot control, like the
If
number
you
of...
take out those $7 million, your number is almost net zero after the less revenue offset.
We can't
So
estimate the
those
benefits.
two items are your biggest increases. And again, you're telling me you're preparing for them, but you did not show in your budget what has been done over the last year. You're showing us what you're doing going forward to offset this budget deficit. What has been done to prepare for a $7 million that you knew was coming?
We know that we have economized everywhere we could. Everywhere.
What? You did not show us anything that you've done. You're just telling us about future cuts.
Okay.
What is the school system, what has the board put in effect to prepare for this type of $7 million increase that they knew was coming for a year?
One of the big things that we did is we're trying to move away from contracted bus services. So we're trying to build that capacity within our school district so we have stabilization of those costs.
But you have a $300,000 increase, so that was not something that was effective.
That's projected for next year. We're talking about an entire budget that I don't have to present to you tonight, but the budget is available to look at.
That's not answering the question I asked, sir.
I'm not sure specifically what you're trying, the benefits amount that is posted up there, we can't predict that. That number varies from year to year.
They don't give you X number of months before they have an increase coming?
No.
You don't have time to
No.
reshop? You have to take it?
We
Excuse
have,
me.
we have a little time, but
Excuse
not
me.
a lot of time.
That information does not come from our health benefits provider until sometime in February, because our year begins in July. And so what happens is they need to look at the claims experience. The claims experience is too young prior to that time. So we don't get rate information until February, which is right up against the wall. And we've experienced this year a larger increase than what we had in the prior years. Prior years, we were around 3%. This year, we're hitting 7, maybe slightly higher than 7%.
Due to COVID?
Could not be predicted.
Due to what reasons?
Catastrophic illnesses, for one. There have been more catastrophic illnesses against claims. There have been a whole host of issues.
So that's a partial answer for the health benefits, but not the contractual salary increases that were put in place.
They were built into the budget. They were
Right.
part of the budget.
But you listed them as one of the impacts.
They are a real
So to me,
impact.
an
They're real
impact means
financial
it's something
impact.
you weren't prepared for.
No, we're listing it as an impact, not that we weren't prepared for it. One of the things that we anticipated, but we couldn't quantify when you start asking questions about what do we prepare for, we have been working over the last year plus to bring special education students back from out-of-district placements into programs at East Brunswick.
That would make a lot of sense. Saves a lot of money.
But there is a break-even point. There is a part where a program being established in East Brunswick requires real people with real benefits and space and materials to service those students. And sometimes it's cheaper, more economical to have that out-of-district placement for that serviceability of that student. So we worked on that. But we also anticipated that post-COVID, that we would be involved in an enormous uptick in litigation. And we are. We are in court all the time because parents have advocates for their children, and those costs are part of the district operation. That's an impact. And every time we have to service students, as I mentioned, we have to hire staff. That's a federal mandate for us to be compliant.
Right, what you have listed up there at 1.2 million.
Right, right.
That's beyond the time. But I want to address one of the questions that came up from the...
I don't know, who are you, sir?
I'm Mr. Giuliani. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for
Okay,
Business.
thank you.
You're welcome. One of the previous questions that had come up regarding transportation. So the issue with regard to transportation, we cannot charge for transportation services. That can only be done if we are providing courtesy transportation. Courtesy transportation is for those students who live less than the legal distance from school. The school district does not provide any courtesy transportation. We provide only the legally mandated transportation services. And so we cannot charge for transportation services.
Mr. Winston.
Jeff Winston, East Brunswick resident. I appreciate the presentation tonight. I think it was pretty thorough. You definitely described everything that happened to you. I'd like to know what you've done because of you. When I and Mark, Mr. Sismar, and I'll save you the emotional response, loud voice, and indignation. Yes, I was on the board for many years, and yes, what I say is factual. For many years, I watched this board approve every single spend that you put in front of them. Not one time was there a no vote on anything, all down to the point of even hiring for $1,500 a pop outside artisan residents. I ask you this, I see that you're highly reactive now because the numbers smacked you in the face. And you know what, I'll assume the emotion is real, but you had opportunities over and over again throughout the years to cut and control costs. You talk as your priorities. When Mark and I resigned from the board, my priority is redistricting. You know what you told me 5 years ago? My priority was redistricting. So as a CEO, I ask you of this district, what have you done proactively before this got shoved in your face? It's over and over. I will say Mr. Giuliani has done a wonderful job in saving money with the district by refinancing debt, and I think that's great. So I ask you, what have you done over 5 years? No cost savings. One of the line items you put up there was the cost of substitute teaching and things like that. Why is the substitute? Why is our need for substitutes so high? Is there a morale issue? Are we having excessive call-outs? I think we are. And as a result of that, you're creating a line item by not addressing CEO, the morale within the schools that are causing teachers to stay home. You sit here reactionary. Proactivity would have prevented a lot of this. Years ago, there was a $3 million error, where a box wasn't filled in by the finance department. How many of those jobs, of those 60 or so names you put up there, with $3 million have saved? The result of that mistake, you called it a learning moment. How many thousands of dollars? Oh, you sure did.
No, I didn't.
Don't
No,
argue
I
with me.
didn't.
This is my time, sir. Please don't argue with me.
All right.
And also, made me lose my train of thought. Right, so you had the $3 million error. That we ended up covering because we didn't want to bring it to the township. When the large amount came down as a surprise from the state a few years ago, I went to your business administrator and I said, look, $6 million, we didn't expect it. Let's not hit the taxpayers with 2%. The response from him, we take what we can get. You'll never know when you're going to need it. You know what? Don't tell me that today you've decided to react to a budget cut and to everything along the lines. Spare me the tears, sir. You've screwed up this district. You have not maintained its averages. The niche ratings dropped, and you went and wrote him a check just to
Your time
get
is
the
up,
ratings
sir.
back. I bet it is, Mr.
Your
Giuliani.
time-
Thank
it's
you
3
very much.
minutes. 3 minutes. And for the record, Mr. Winston, that conversation you alleged we had, that happened in your dreams.
I'll take you to members of the public. That's very good, sir. The defense is up, sir. Out of line. How dare you?
I dare. Okay, that's enough. Yes.
So firstly, I want to say thank you for handling a tough situation. It is a thankless job, and I thank you. There's bad news all around, and instead of us arguing with each other, we need to focus on wowing the state so that we can get the money back. So that's what I recommend we focus on, and I will send you an email with some ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the back. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm slow. Okay. Hi, I'm Dr. Anna Braun. I'm an East Brunswick resident. Oh dear. You're cutting into my time, people. Come on, we got to move this. Okay, now I'm all flustered. Anyway, I'm a East Brunswick resident. I've been here my whole life. I've gone nowhere in life. I grew up in East Brunswick. I went to the high school. I came back out of college, and I got a job here. And I'm still here. I'm old. I'm retired. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still paying my taxes. I'm not old enough to get my taxes frozen. And that's okay. I'm good with that. Now, I'm also on Facebook all day. Thank you very much, because I've got lots of time. So now, I'm dead serious here, folks. You tell me who in the state we have to contact, and I will get on their backs tomorrow. I'm not fooling around, because this music department is one of the best, not only in the state, but nationally. And I'll be damned, we're not going down without a fight. And I'm really, really happy to hear that you've saved the program for at least 1 year, which is really important because, of course, we all know, you don't start a program partway up the tree. You have to start at the root. You cut the root, you cut 4th grade music. Those kids are going to lose an entire year of instruction. There's no way to make that up. You can't make that up by coming to Hammarskjold and trying to start groups of kids with different instruments in a huge class, like the way that it's set up at Hammarskjold. Hammarskjold was never set up to be like an elementary school. It never has been, and it isn't now. Those children need small group instruction with like instruments in the elementary schools. Not only is it, thank you, not only are the students, one, taking lessons, right, small group lessons in school, they also have before and after school rehearsals. That's additional teacher contact time. They also do multiple concerts. I'm sorry, Dr. Valeski, I didn't mean to ignore you. I'm just used to talking face to face.
That's all right, Dr. Braun.
So sorry. People the kids also get to do concerts. They do a district-wide concert at the end of the year, where they combine all the kids from all the schools. Oh, and did I
10
mention?
seconds.
Oh, there's 70% of the 4th graders are in band and orchestra. Thank you. Call me. We'll
Thank you,
talk.
Dr. Warren. I'm sorry you have we have one person in the back. I'm sorry, and then we'll get you next. I'm sorry you have so far to go.
EBHS 2001, woo! Monroe a lot before that. I don't want to say that number. I want to thank you, sir, for allowing me the time to speak. My name is Dr. Jamie Falco. I'm a lifelong resident and also a business owner. One of my core memories was 4th grade orchestra and hearing the Addams Family played on the violin, and that solidified my love of music. I think this program is so important, and I implore the board and you to find a solution to extend it beyond a year for 4th graders. Thank you.
Thanks. Sir, did you?
Hi, my name is Dr. Nadia Atala. I'm EBHS 2004, so I guess we're saying our years. So we're in a tough spot. You put the people we're losing versus the orchestra. So the room is already divided. So that's why we need to do the state. We need to speak up, vote in November, all of that. You guys know that. So the assistant super that the job is done.
Position.
Is somebody assuming that position and the roles that come with it? By the way, I'm basing all of my questions on solely on the presentation, no Facebook, none of that stuff. So how is that program that was overseen affected with that cut? That's question one. I'll let you answer, and I'll go to the next question.
Okay. The people, the layer under the assistant superintendent still perform those roles. They will report up through 2 other directors that will be shared between academics and student services. and all of that will eventually report up to me on that side of the equation. So we're hopeful that all the service will be uninterrupted, but it is a reality that the assistant superintendent position is up for elimination. I mean, the reality is, organizationally, we have to shrink the size of the organization if we're going to survive in the future.
Now, contractual salary increases, so I'm assuming that's a contract and there is, you have to get the increase. Now, I'll get to that in a second. The elimination, aren't these jobs contractual too? Is that within the right to eliminate these contracts, I guess? So if, my question is, if we have to increase salaries for next year or so, can we freeze that to save the jobs?
That is not something, I can do. That is contractual. So that we've already agreed we were going to pay.
But are the
those-
jobs that are eliminated, weren't they contractual too? So I'm just saying it goes one way, not both ways?
Well, the positions are empty, and we've decided not to fill them, so they organically are those ones that I mentioned didn't have somebody occupying them. We're just not going to refill them.
The 51 positions had
No,
nobody in them?
no,
No, I'm
the
talking about
50
the 51 positions. The 51 positions are contract.
There were 25, but there were a number of positions that were, let me get to the right slide,
I'm talking about the
10
ones that.
seconds.
right there. So we have 51 total positions that are affected. 25 of those people are actually reduction in force, and the others
So those
are.
25, are they contractual? Like, so we're forced to raise the
Yeah,
salary.
without the money, they're contractual. Everyone on that, almost everyone on that list has a contract.
And you
of the
could just
25.
terminate them?
When we don't have the funding, the position can be reduced in force, yes.
Sir, the time's up.
Are you getting a raise next year?
Am I getting a raise next
Yes.
year? Yeah. In
can't-
my contract, my contractual obligation says I'm getting a raise.
But I don't understand the contractual obligation that could fire people, but you could raise the salary, but you can't.
I'm
fire people.
telling you that my contract has a 2.75% raise in it, and
Can
that's
you-
out every year.
Can you guys agree that voluntarily you guys could give this up? Else, because we're getting rid of the ban next year, but we can't really
Okay.
freeze our salary.
Okay, okay.
I'm just taking it out with you. I'm trying to find a root
I
cause of the problem to fix it.
I understand.
Sir, let Dr. Valeski answer.
I
and
understand.
your
No,
time
no,
is
that's
up.
okay. If we don't hear what I have to
I
say.
want to hear just
Okay.
to leave. Can I stay on the microphone?
Sure.
or no? I'll turn it off, I promise.
Sure. No, you don't have to turn it off. So I have a question then. So we have this situation where the wealth in East Brunswick is a factor in how much we get in state aid, right? Everyone in East Brunswick, according to the statistics, is growing in wealth. You get less state aid. So is the solution to tell the school district staff, everyone in the staff that's under contract?
No, just the most highest paid people.
Oh, okay, I understand, most highest paid people.
Our taxes are increasing too.
Okay.
Just like any
Our taxes,
CEO would do.
we got a letter from the mayor last year, was it? That our taxes are increased because of the school budget or something? So,
I'm sure you did.
no, it was an error? Oh, okay.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
So, can you go to the budget, sorry?
Which one?
The one that has the 7 million deficit, yeah. So what would happen if we don't have the money? This might be a stupid question. Like, we are minus 7 million here, so what are we gonna do?
The cuts we have put before you balance the budget.
So we'd be, when the budget is up for vote, we'd be good, assuming we do all.
With the recommendations I presented tonight, we would have a balanced budget.
And for next year, would it still be good, or would we have this meeting next year?
We will need to investigate additional cuts to prepare for next year. We anticipate that our state aid will continue to either remain flat or decline.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Here first, and then we'll go there. Yes.
Rachel Botnick, Society Hill, Bromley Place.
Hi.
I just have two questions based on your presentation tonight. One of them was very concerning to me. You mentioned that you have an increase in special ed positions because of state mandates. Are those new mandates, or were you out of compliance?
No, we weren't out of compliance. We had more students come in the district.
More students coming into the district that are needing to be classified?
Yes, that were classified or were under classification. Yes.
Okay. My second question is, you also mentioned that instructional coaches were being eliminated, but clarify that. Those positions are being eliminated, but those people and their salaries at top salary go into other positions in your district,
They're
correct?
going back into teaching positions,
Right,
correct?
with their full top instructional coach salaries. Like higher on, most of those people are not non-tenured. They are mostly on the highest part of your salary guide, correct?
I don't have the information right in
I
front of
can
me,
tell
so.
you, they are.
Okay.
they
I don't
are.
know how you know that, and I don't.
Well, because most instructional coaches are not brand new off the streets.
Oh, no, they aren't. They
So they're
aren't.
usually
But I can't-
seasoned teachers. I would
can't-
hope so.
But I can't verify that they're at the top of the guide.
They're close.
But
Okay.
I can't tell you with any.
Just so everybody knows, they're eliminating the lowest salaried positions, but keeping the highest. So everybody's clear.
To clarify on
first.
that,
Pardon?
that's the way it works under the law for tenure. That's how it works. But there are 10 positions that are being reduced, so there's a ripple effect as a result of the elimination of those positions.
And are all of the positions that are filled efficiently and effectively being used?
Yes.
Can you guarantee that? Really? Nobody has, I don't know, gaps in their schedules or things like that that can reduce a person actually losing their career or their job and have to now collect unemployment?
I'm not sure who's speaking right now. Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear where the voice was coming from. Would you mind coming up here?
I'm concerned that the reduction in salaries is coming from the smallest people. And that's not fair. And this is somebody, I'm a 27-year teacher, okay? I speak for teachers, and I speak for the students. And you're saying there's gonna be as little effect on these children as possible? How can you say that? Already class sizes are increased. Special ed kids are not being serviced the way they should be. And you're gonna take those teachers out of the classrooms? How often do you go into a classroom? Honestly, my kids don't even know who you are.
I'm sorry.
So to stand here and,
Number one, to clarify, class sizes are not going up. No, they aren't. No, they aren't.
how can you say that?
I have been in classes, and I have access to the numbers.
I teach in classes where they go up every year that budgets are like this and get passed like this with shortfalls like this. So don't tell me that they will not be affected, because they absolutely will.
And absorbed by another class.
Yes. Exactly, plus the new students for all of the wonderful apartments that are being built.
Yes.
Hello. I have some questions that maybe are silly, but number one, in regards to the charter school, is that percentage that we have to give per pupil a state mandate? Is there any negotiation for that?
No. They determine the tuition amount.
So all charter schools for New Jersey have to pay this 90% per student?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number two, is there a financial impact that these developers are having that can benefit us with revenue?
No. Well, there is pilot money. We understand there's pilot money that is attached to these developments. School districts have not seen any pilot money, and the details of when they collect and how much they collect, I don't have access to. So I can't tell you right now. There's a certain occupancy level, and that's a conversation we have with the township, but there are certain levels of occupancy before the pilot money actually kicks in.
So is that in your foresight for the future?
No, it's not. No, we're not anticipating any pilot money from the township.
So there's no relationship with the developments that are going on and the money that's being made to go
The
back to
developers are not, at this point, they are not supplanting schools. They are not providing money to offset any impact to schools.
Okay. So I just want to be clear because I feel like I'm not sure. So am I hearing that we're not entertaining salary freezes for this year for top tier folks?
I'm not discussing salary freezes tonight.
Okay. And in regards to social media, I understand what you're saying. Social media could be, it's bittersweet, but I will say that I helped to run a page where we try to give the most information as possible, and I will question, if it wasn't for social media buzz, would this meeting have even happened?
Okay.
How you doing? Thank you for your time. I'm Nicholas Cabrera. I'm a resident and also the Senior Vice Commander of the VFW in East Brunswick. I just want to, so how long did you know that this was coming down the pipe while you were still hiring people in school district?
We didn't know the full impact of this until we got our state aid numbers after the governor gave his address.
So an $8 million deficit that's tied from state funding to teachers' salaries, not like programs, but actual like human beings' salaries. And state funding goes away. We know this. It's contingent. We also knew that this budgeting was coming since 2008 when they enacted that new budgeting law. And as a subject matter expert who's supposed to deal with these things, you should know that this was coming. This was coming down the pipe. And a lot of people who pay attention to budgeting and how it works in the state knew this was coming down this pipe. There were literally articles on it. And it's your job to make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen. And when this gentleman, and I moved here not too long ago because I was busy serving and doing other things. And then this gentleman's talking about a $3 million shortfall that just kind of happened. Was anybody fired for this shortfall?
It was a teaching moment.
That's not a teaching moment.
First of all,
hold on, I'm not done.
Okay.
You're a public servant, I talk, and then you can talk.
Wait, let's stop right there. I'm not a public servant.
Oh, I thought.
So number one, I'm not a servant at all, and I serve like you did. Okay, so I am in public service. But I am not your servant.
Oh, so the leader of the school, like district,
is
not a public servant to
the
constituents that pay his salary.
I know the way that you interpreted it.
Oh, I know how I interpreted it. I served as a teacher. I served in the military for 13 years. I know service, sir. I know what real service is.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I know what
actually,
people are.
thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you for the $8 million shortfall that you missed as a subject matter expert, because that destroyed the lives of a lot of people. And those employees, the secretaries, I'll figure it out. But the secretaries who just lost a ton of money because they went from 12 to 10 months, you know what, that's not cool. All this stuff, and it's your fault. You're the budgeting. You're the leader. Your fault.
Yes.
Thanks. How much of this nighttime programs extra, how much are we bringing in these special programs at night that aren't on the school?
In terms of our enterprise?
Yeah.
Enterprise accounts? Mr. Giuliano, do you recall how much we're actually generating?
Are we generating enough versus how much do we put out to service it or maintenance it or whatever?
The Community Programs Enterprise is a profit-making organization.
Okay.
So the school district doesn't subsidize that.
Okay.
It operates like a business, and its net income goes to support the budget.
Okay. So we don't know how much we're bringing in from that, though?
I think in next year's budget, we have about $1.5 million coming over to support the budget.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we're, bringing in enough that it's worth it, or what we have to do afterwards.
No, we are. It's like rental of this facility on weekends generates a substantial amount of money for the district. And we reinvest some of that money for the maintenance and repair that happens because of the usage.
That's what I mean, like if we're renting it out and we should be charging more than if we're gonna pay our money out for someone, for our people that you're paying to service it afterwards if there's something.
Well, we use our own people to service it,
Yeah.
but we do generate substantial income that goes to offset the general fund.
Well, you could generate more. We could generate more in that way. You could charge more. Because you tell everybody here that the taxes and we make too much and bring in too much now. I'm a union guy, I've been doing it 26 years. I might show up to a job for one day and there's no more job after that day. I don't have a guaranteed anything. This is, bring up the price. The price is coming up here because everybody's leaving the city and New York where all these programs are coming in and everybody's running here. We didn't do any of that. I've been here a long time. The prices are increasing for that reason. Not that everyone here is making so much money. It's not, you look around, everybody here needs to know, you're all fellow Americans. And it's a good thing that you have Facebook and then you argue with each other and you do something about it. That's where this country came from. So don't ever feel bad about it and don't get upset that somebody wants to say something, because in the middle, we'll all find it. But don't blame yourself that prices are coming up here. Then we need to increase the price here, because you know what? I go north every day. Right now, our state's fighting over what they're charging for people to commute to the city. Our own idiot governor didn't check off the box. That's why when FIFA comes here in 2006, it's going to be the New York, New Jersey Stadium, because he didn't write it down as the New Jersey, New York Stadium. But we're shoveling money, money over the river, shoveling money through the tunnel, shoveling it to everybody. And you're going to tell everybody here that they're making too much money? We're not making too much money. And you need to stop arguing about the people here. That's all.
Yes.
Is there any way to develop some district-wide, fundraising so that we can try to improve this as a community in a beneficial way? Like from your department down, is there any way we can develop something like a community-wide fundraising so that everybody contributes?
Yeah, if you didn't hear, she's asking if we could develop community-wide fundraising. But, and certainly, I would assume that could be an option. We want to explore every option we have to make sure that the district is appropriately funded. We're looking for fair and appropriate funding from the state. Every one of us as a taxpayer, regardless of where you live, we pay money to the state in the form of taxation. And that money is redistributed to school districts. So even part of the money you all pay for taxes goes to other districts depending on how the state allocates their money. We want to make sure that East Brunswick has that fair share and is not penalized for some of the factors that we think are adversely affecting us. If we're developing and we're promoting and we're continuing to improve the school system, which becomes an attraction for people who are successful and have good incomes, and they want to be here for the schools, they want their children to attend school here because they know of successful outcomes, but they make good incomes. That is going to impact, based on the current formula, it's going to impact our ability to get state aid funding. Based on the current formula, if somebody of extreme wealth moved into the district, it's going to have a negative impact on the amount of money the school gets.
That's not my question.
But the question is, we can do a fundraiser.
So why is your department proactively going about trying to create things that the community should do to create a fundraiser to not only keep people employed, but keep our kids getting the education that they're currently getting? Because with the influx of building that is happening in this town, our children's education is going to suffer if we continue to get budgetary constraints.
Well, I think that the balance is the taxation level and the tax level that the board would set as a tax levy based on the approval of a budget. That's the balance between trying to be fair to the taxpayers And I'm not speaking for the board, I'm just talking about the parameters. But being fair to the taxpayers too. We have to figure out an equilibrium, because if we're not going to continue to get additional state aid, if this is where the plateau is, then we have to adjust to it. And I hear what people are saying. We should have known this. 140 districts out of 600 suffered budgetary impacts this year that were not known. They did not know it was coming. We didn't know it was coming because we didn't know the wealth factor was going to be put into the state aid formula this year. We had gotten increases in previous years. What is it, Mr. Giuliano, like $6.5 million last year of additional state aid funding. That's a dramatic difference from getting $6.5 million last year to being cut 1.3 this year.
Were there new programs this year that took up that,
I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm thinking out loud. If we had an increase last year, a surplus was where's, I know, I don't want to work right now. If there was, I'm sorry, if there was, if you had an increase last year, what was it, $6 million you said? If there was $6 million there, I think just now a lot of people just questioned, well, where is that, were there new programs that took up that whole money, or is that, like, how does that work?
So the cost of that budget, and even in that budget, we had to make cuts last year to balance that budget. But they weren't the personnel cuts that we're talking about this year. So we were able to make those things internally without affecting people. But we had things like mental health support. That was a big push in the district, but at a pretty big price tag. So those kinds of impacts, along with other factors that were big ticket items, consume most of that money. Yes.
You know this got to come all the way down here. I'm too short for this. Antoinette Evola. I live in East Brunswick. I've been here 9 years. I have 2 kids in the school, one in elementary, one in Churchill. When my son started kindergarten, he had 13 kids in his classroom. My daughter is in 4th grade and now has 23. It's only going to grow as the apartments bring in children. And don't quote me, but it's about $31,000 to teach each one of these kids. And with pilot program money, the district doesn't get those tax dollars. It goes to the township and they have the discretion. So for everyone who's wondering, they're not going to give the money over. They don't have to. They can do whatever they want with it. So my question is, we're a 2-income household. My husband is a union worker. When he's the new guy, he's the guy who gets chopped first. That's just the way it is. We budget our house to make sure that if my husband's going to get laid off, we don't miss our mortgage. We don't miss our rent. We don't miss our car payments. My question is, you don't got to clap for me because I'm not trying to get clapped for. I just want everyone to understand that I need to know next year, because we're already done with this. I know you guys already have done everything you can. Thank you to the board, because I know that you guys have been working until 12 o'clock every night, and it's a free job, and everyone wants to judge you, but let them run for the board if they want to do it. But what I want to know is, what are we going to do next year to raise the money so that 55 or whatever it was, people don't lose their jobs? You know, because I don't think that you woke up yesterday morning saying you want to fire people. I don't think that any of them said, let's go over budget so that everyone can lose their jobs this year. Some of them are teachers. They know what it feels like. And I know how much phone calls your secretaries get, definitely this week, because Facebook had them calling. So I know a 30% reduction to a secretary might seem like not a big deal, but like somebody said, $40,000 is not a lot of money. And I don't know if anyone's went food shopping lately, but you really can't buy too much with $40,000. So they're gonna have to get a second job to be able to just survive, because that unemployment for those 2 months isn't gonna be enough. My question to you, Dr. Valeski, is what are we doing to make sure that we have a surplus next year? Because being in the red isn't fun for anyone. It's not fun for us, it's not fun for the kids, it's definitely not fun for them, and I know it's not fun for you. So what are we doing to make sure that next year we're in the green? Thank you.
So the 3 things that I mentioned were, we're going to look at every single position as it organically changes, whether it's a resignation or retirement. Do we really need that position? Do we need to repurpose that position? We're going to look at organizational changes throughout this year to build greater efficiency in our system, because we're going to have to do that. We already know, based on what we're forecasted, if we carry forward this year, that we're going to have to become a leaner administrative machine. We already know that we have to generate more enterprise revenue. We have been successful in the past because we have been a district who has been ahead of our peers in generating that enterprise revenue. We brought money in that was able to be transferred to the general fund. It offset the general fund. It helped balance the budget. Post-COVID, our before-school and after-school care programs have seen declines in participation. There are more people still, post-COVID, who are working from home, who do not need the before care and after-school care services. It is recovering, but it's recovering slow. Entities like this is a premier facility. It continues to be a premier facility. It looks pretty much the way it was delivered once it was built, because it's been maintained. But it's utilized heavily. It's utilized almost every weekend. And we don't have the same rental capacity for our high school auditorium. If you've been in the high school auditorium in the last 2 or 3 years, it is really essentially the high school auditorium when it was built. But it is showing its age, wear and tear. It's not a place that people want to pay a premium dollar to use. So we've utilized all of our facilities. We continue to look at our facilities. There was a mention tonight about redistricting. We are actively working on exploring redistricting. We have not done it yet. We haven't kicked it off yet. But there are other factors other than just saying we're going to redistrict. There are other factors. But what are the economies with doing certain things? We are investigating all those things, but there's no final answer yet. But everything now is going to have to be looked at under a greater microscope, because we already know now what is coming. And we will be prepared for it. This has been painful, extremely painful. And I'm talking here as a person delivering this message, and I don't mean to diminish the pain that a lot of people are feeling that got the news that they're not going to have a job. This is not something I like doing. And you can, have people say, part of this is an act, it's no act. I've been on the other side of this equation before, so I know how it feels. And that's why we're trying really hard to make sure this does not happen next year. I cannot guarantee anything, but what I can guarantee you is we are going to put 100% into advocacy to make sure that we are heard in terms of funding our school district, and we are going to continue to look for efficiencies. I didn't say. I said I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it in this forum. Yes.
I am so sorry to come back up here, but I do want to say something to everyone. Everyone is so focused on Dr. Valeski's salary, but it takes a lot to run this district. And we're creating a toxic environment for people to go into leadership roles. Like, it's not easy standing on that right there and to do everything. And it costs, he's running a company. When you compare his salary to CEOs, it's nothing. It really is nothing. The money in education, no one goes into education for the money. Can we agree? There's no money in education. If he wanted to be a CEO of a company, he would have made millions. So we're not just creating a toxic environment for our teachers, because now they're worried about security, but we're also causing a toxic environment for leadership. So please, guys, it's a very difficult position. And his salary, he's responsible for our kids. I want someone who's competent. If you reduce that salary, you think we're gonna have someone more competent? Absolutely not. So this is what we're getting with the salary that we're paying, and thank you, Dr. Valeski. But really, before you start saying that we have to reduce his salary, think about what kind of quality we're gonna reduce.
We're not.
I'm not. Respectfully, I'm not.
We're not going to debate. We're not going to.
I'm not doing that. It's not about you. She's completely right. Is about how do we have more students next year with less teacher, and saying everything is going to be all right. I love Bob Marley, but I don't think it's going to work. I'm not saying just like some school, some class already resolved in one, and just like we know we have more and more special needs kids. How do we do with less teacher? And I understand that for now, every solution that we had in the room is the answer is no. But I have 4 kids in this school system. I moved to East Brunswick, like most likely everyone else who didn't come to East Brunswick for the public school. So I will love you to keep your salary, and I will love everybody else to keep their job, because it's not about you, it's not about anyone else, but it's about the kids. And with that, these people in the kids, where it's already packed, and we know that, everyone knows, the high school, the middle school, we have no kids anywhere else. So, I don't know, you did your budget, I know there is a board school, I'm so sorry, I did not have the time to do the board meeting on all of that. I feel like now it's an emergency. I think everyone in the room now is going to come to the board school, because we feel like we are imposing ourselves a budget that nobody is agreeing with. So you are signing next week, 2 weeks, you set the date, I don't care. Just like the meeting today was for you to say, yeah, it's, comme, as we say in French, c'est la vie. We don't care, just like, because yes, you are keeping the program, music program for 1 year. What does it mean? It's like, oh, that's okay. My son is going to be out of 4th grade, so we'll put the problem next year. The problem is, how do we do? And so far, there is no solution. And yes, people are just like, yeah, you are telling us there is a problem in the budget, and we are all like, well, we can all give more taxes to, but you are like, no, I keep my increase. So that's why we are angry. That's why. And I'm sure you understand that. Because we are all here for the kids and the community. And that's why. And I feel like you forgot that you are here for that. And the community starts with the smaller people and the small job. And the people who are in school. And in the morning, say hi to the kids. Yes. Say hi. Yeah, okay. Say hi to the kids who had a breakdown because he had COVID, because he had a crap morning. That's why the school is for.
Yes. I'm sorry. Could you? No, I'm sorry, her, and then we'll go do you next. Okay. Sorry.
Jane from 67 Pensbury Way. You mentioned that, I know a lot of parents or residents here are for the music program, and you did mention that you're going to restore for 1 year.
1 year.
And I don't know whether I mishear it or what. I think you said only 1 year.
Right, 1 year.
So are you going to is that in your plan that you're going to budget more wisely next year so that you can keep this program running for the future 4th graders? Because I know you guys receive a lot of emails talking about how important this program is to our district. The orchestra is like a legacy for us. When you said we're going to just keep that only for 1 year, it just sounds like a bargain to me. Like my kids ask me for watching more TV, and then I would be like, yeah, you can watch 20 more minutes. Sorry, it related to me like that, but I just want to know whether you guys really understand the importance of that program to us, to our district, to our community.
I think I'm speaking for the board, that they've always been invested in the arts. They've understood the importance of the arts and East Brunswick experience. The idea was, we were trying to figure out how we could make this work for 1 year by just saying, okay, we'll put off doing some maintenance issues that really won't impact students but need to be done, for 1 year. Just to give you an example of perspective, we had a water leak under one of the corridors of the high school, which caused the high school to be closed for a week and a part of another week earlier this school year. And it's because we don't have isolation valves around the building to cut off the water. So the building's either all on or all off. And part of that maintenance that we were talking about was installing these isolation valves. So, those kinds of things, taking that away and deferring it for a year, allow this program to exist for one more year. But we have to find a way to get additional funding into the district to support the arts.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Diane Brennan, 38-year resident of East Brunswick. I hope the board listens with open ears. It's pretty much a concern. The assistant superintendent who's being let go, my children went through East Brunswick schools. Back in the day when you could go in and volunteer in the schools and you could sign in the office and you could walk up to the classroom. That's not the world we live in. And the assistant superintendent of schools has done a dynamic job of security in our schools for our children and the staff that he employs in the schools for the security of our children. And my fear is that breaking that apart to be weeded out to different people to have those responsibilities takes the focus off. He was there to do that. Every crisis situation has a command team with one person in charge. We've had that for how many years, and he's done a fantastic job. Thank you. He has. That's what I have to say about that. My next thing is, it came to my attention tonight sitting here, I was unaware, but I'd really like you to address it. What was the $3 million line item last year that was missed? That's a lot of money. Does that mean there was $300 million, or $3 million, I'm sorry, not accounted for, and we just let it go? And this year we're showing this kind of a shortfall. Even without that shortfall, losing $3 million, that's a big deal. So if you could just address that and explain, I don't understand what that was and what
Well,
happened
first
with
of
that.
all, what was being portrayed, we have audit documents that are produced every year by an independent auditor. And I will point...
Not the state, it's an
Not the state,
independent- it's an independent auditor.
And I would point the community to look at those audit documents.
Where would I find those?
They're available on our website, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Will that give me an explanation as to what happened? No. I mean, I know I'll see that there, I've heard that tonight, but will it give me an explanation of what happened to that $3 million?
We do thousands of transactions to move money around every year, every single year. And so I'm just saying, look at the audit documents. That's the source document, because obviously whatever I say tonight, no one's going to believe anyway. So look at the source documents.
Well, if you gave me an honest answer, I would believe you.
I'm saying, look at the source documents.
Okay,
Just look at the
there's
source
something,
documents.
there's something called a source document.
I'm calling it a source document because it's an audit certified by auditors about our financial situation,
Okay.
about things. If there was a finding, it would be revealed there.
Okay, and if there was no finding, we just lost $3 million?
No, I would think the auditors would have an opinion about
Okay.
if something was done that was
Okay,
not
I
appropriate.
hear that. My time is up. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Mary Pan, 20-year resident of East Brunswick. I had a son who graduated from here already. He's in college, and then I also have a high schooler. I'm listening to everybody's stories and what has happened here with the budget. And, when I first had seen all of this come up on Facebook, I decided to look into it some more, see what everybody is saying, and also digging into a little bit more of a deep dive into what's going on. Is it just us? Is it going on throughout the state? And it is. There was an article about South Brunswick and the impact that the budget, I I guess, decrease, the state aid decrease for them had impacted them. They had a $6.2 million shortfall, and they had to make some hard decisions after many open forums, such as this, but they did theirs earlier on in March. They had to reduce their staff by 65 people, teachers, administrators, supervisors, coaches. They had to increase class sizes from K through 12. They had to reduce support. They had to increase fees for lunches. They had to reduce security. And when they reduced staff, that they wanted to let their residents know that because of reduced staff, where they may have had a team and they reduced it to one, their HIB investigations would take longer. Their responses to inquiries would take longer. Their customer service and stuff like that would be much longer. New fees for late buses. So we're not the only ones. They did an entire presentation with even more detail, because not only did they get a $6.2 million decrease, they've been experiencing cuts for the last 6-7 years.
Yes.
2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24. So we are experiencing it for the first time, and this is incredible that so many people have come out to share their stories, how they're impacted. I highly recommend that everybody take their stories and share it with your legislators, because they are the ones who will be able to make a difference. It is the formula that is calculating who gets how much money, who gets a little bit of money. We've been getting state aid for years, and this is the first year that we're getting this. I highly recommend that you share that with your legislators. Go and, speak to them, call them, email them, whatever you're doing here, take that energy, take your Facebook energy, and share that with them, because unless they hear that, they're not gonna change it. They're not gonna change it. So, I would encourage you to also, South Brunswick has an advocacy committee where they're getting all their residents together to help advocate. They let them know the status of all the legislative bills that are going on. There's also a consortium of all the supervisors in all the districts, 140 or so that are impacted. You guys are all working together to make sure that you're working with the legislator to get this change, so nobody gets impacted, so we don't have to have this happen to any of our children. So thank you.
Yeah. And Mrs. Bann, I just wanted to say, Dr. Fetter, or Scott Fetter and I are working together. We talk all the time because working on legislation that would be impactful for both South Brunswick and East Brunswick.
Hi. I have a few questions. Now, Dr. Figueroa, I don't know if a lot of you realize how much he's actually in charge of. He does the counseling, security, the athletic, and special ed department. You mentioned before how you're now going to delegate all of his responsibilities down the pike. Nothing up the pike, everything down the pike.
No,
Are these going to be stipend positions?
No.
Are they getting salary increases?
No.
So we're just going to overwhelm other administrators
No,
who
they're
already
gonna-
have positions?
No, they're going to continue to do what they do. And obviously, some of that's going to roll up to me because I don't have an assistant superintendent position. So it's going to naturally roll up to me, but nobody's going to get a stipend. There's not additional pay for those people in those supervisor or director roles. They're going to serve at that level.
But again, his responsibilities now become other individuals' responsibilities.
The
So
responsibilities are the same, and the work is still being done. Yeah, there are going to be things that we're going to have to reallocate, but that's going to be my responsibility.
So you're going to take on all of the steps then that were his responsibility. So you're adding that to your workload.
I'm increasing my workload, yes.
And so
Okay,
nothing's
all
going
right.
to come down?
We have an organizational chart. We're going to work through the system and see how that works out, but we do have an organizational plan in place.
Because I personally, and I'm sure all of you, have seen him at your kids' functions, events, volunteering. So we're gonna see you. My kids will know your face. Like, they'll walk up to you and be like, "Hi, Dr. Figueroa, how are you?" Then now they're gonna say hello to you. Like, are you gonna become part of the community? Because, I don't know, but thank you, because.
He's the only admin who lives in Spring.
I know. And the fact, too, that he lives in town, like, he is our community. I understand the budget cuts, but I don't think, again, the board is seeing the big picture of who he is and what he brings to our district and our community. He is a part of our family, and I really hope you take a look at who you're letting go. Because I'm a teacher myself. I have attended Seton Hall, Kane. I've guest lectured at different colleges. I have taught for almost 20 years in a school district, and I have never seen an administrator like him.
10 seconds.
So I really hope that you take this into consideration, because when he's gone, I wouldn't come back if I were him after what is happening. And you're not going to find a better replacement.
Thank you.
So I'll be brief. I know that our time tonight is almost over. Jack Blaylock, lifelong resident, 3 kids in the district, proud employee of the district. I can't talk about numbers. I don't know the numbers. And I'm not here to debate the need for cuts. All I ask for is just some transparency. If the goal was to minimize the impact on children, anyone who's worked in this district knows how hard the people in this district work from top to bottom. There really is no waste. So when we cut positions, we're removing people from a job that was being done. And those jobs have to get done by other people. It was mentioned that there's an organizational flow chart. I think it's a fair ask. Tomorrow night, there's a Board of Education meeting. Obviously, not all of the jobs can be disclosed, right? There's more that can be, that Mr. Figueroa and other supervisors, and let's talk about the secretaries as well, that they do on a daily basis. It can't all be detailed. But could we get some insight as a community, as a school community, as to how these jobs are being reallocated and where the workload is being spread? I have to believe that in a district as ours, where the people work as hard as we do, that this has been thoroughly planned out, that HR has answers, they've looked at the jobs and they've looked at the job tasks across the district, and they've said, okay, these are where the efficiencies can come from, these are where the jobs can be reallocated to. I think some of us would feel a lot better about what's happening if we could get some insight as to how some of this workload is going to be spread around so that the impact truly is minimized on the children in the district. Thank you.
This will be the last one because we are at the 8:32 mark.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask a question for like context of the state aid reduction. So you had mentioned that last year we got 6.5 million.
About
and now we're getting
6.5, yes.
1.3 less.
Yes.
Like a negative. Is there, I don't know if you have the answer right now, but is there a trend that we can speak to, like in previous years, what it was? So we can kind of get an idea of like how this came about, because it seems like a big number to all of a sudden lose 7.8 million.
Mr. Giuliani, can you give a real brief update from like around 2010, 11 to where we are now, just like the trend?
Sure.
No?
Okay, so for a period of time, the district had flat state aid.
Mr. Giuliani, here, come here.
For a period of time, the district had flat state aid. There were no increases coming from year to year. This is going back a number of years. For the last 4 years approximately, the district has been seeing increases in state aid. The reasoning for that was that the state had held back East Brunswick state aid, and it was time to catch up. 2 years ago, the increase was about $7.4 million. Last year was $6.5 million. We've been seeing significant increases to catch up and help cover the costs that we've been seeing. We were expecting a similar increase to happen. It didn't. The state fully implemented the funding formula this year. It had never been fully implemented since it was enacted in 2008. And so the implications of that funding formula were not known. They couldn't be known. What we know now is that there are two factors that have significant impact upon the state aid calculation, as Dr. Valeski discussed earlier. One is property valuations. As property valuations in town increase, that has an impact of reducing state aid. We did a mock review of the formula to try and ascertain what that impact would be for the future. If all things were equal, remain equal in terms of how the state aid formula was implemented for this year, a $100 million increase in property valuations would result in a $500,000 decrease in state aid for next year. If I recall correctly, our increase in property valuations, according to the state, oh, my time's up. The increase in property valuations that impacted our calculations for this year. Joe, are you here? It was about $700 million, correct? $700 million, our property values went up from last year to this year. That had an impact. So we did a what if. If $100 million increase happened for next year, based on the formula as it's working now, what does that mean for us? $500,000 decrease. Then we looked at district income. It looks at income for the entire district, properties, businesses, everything. So our increase was $300 million. So $300 million was our increase from last year to the current year. That combination resulted in us not getting an increase, but actually going down to $1.3 million. So we did a what if. What if income for the district goes up 100 million? We went up 300 million this last year. Let's just do 100 million. Based on the formula as it is right now, that's a $2.5 million decrease. So we're not looking at a good situation right now for next year. If the state aid formula continues to work the way it just did, fully implemented, East Brunswick and other school districts around the state are going to have a problem. The formula is flawed, and that's where the call to action comes in. I hope that answers your question.
It did. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Valeski.
That concludes tonight. I really do appreciate everyone coming out. I actually appreciate the questions and feedback. I hope everyone has a good night.